One of the examples I always give is the lion, for example. The lion is known as the courageous beast. And we look to embody that courage in life to really go after what we truly want and truly desire and not conform to what society expects us to do, which is really referred to as the 99% of the people on this planet that just feel like they're trapped in a certain circumstance or stuck and don't have any options.
Welcome to the Real Estate Mogul MD podcast. Thanks for tuning in and taking control of your financial future. This is a show where we not only motivate and inspire, we give you actionable real-world experience to help you live life by design. You'll hear journeys and stories from other physicians, investors, coaches, consultants, and entrepreneurs. And now, here's your host, Brett Riggins. All right, here we go. Matt Swierk, welcome to the show. How are you doing today, man?
Oh, Brett, I'm fantastic. I'm really excited to be here. It's an honor to be here with you and all the things that you're doing, and especially helping people really grow wealth and moving into a life that they may not think it's possible. And I'm just really fired up and I'm really excited. So thank you.
Well, absolutely. Our pleasure here to have you and excited to just jump into the conversation. So here on Real Estate Mogul MD, we talk a lot about real estate. We talk a lot about mindset, entrepreneurship, all of these different things. And sometimes we have physicians. Most of the time we have physicians on the show. And today we don't. You're not a doctor, right?
No, I am not a doctor. I was an EMT and a firefighter when I was in college. So I don't know if that gives me any street credit. So.
Very cool. So now you are on a whole new level here. And what I love about this is on the beginning of everything, I think everything starts with mindset. And you've got a little something going on called elevated human experience. And that's where you're at now. Could you just really just give us a high level overview of maybe from that time being, first responder kind of situation to where you're at now?
Yeah. And first of all, Brett, the word mindset is thrown around so much that people, kind of get numb to it and they're like, okay, what really is this? So, that's one of the first things is helping people break down what is mindset all about. But I'll back up and answer the question in regards to, for me, I've been a serial entrepreneur. When I was younger, my dad, who turned 50, he was working with a company for a long time. They said, okay, we're wiping your whole sales force out. You can either go, move to Minnesota, relocate with your family, or you can go into the workforce. And at that time, he had two, younger sons, my brothers, and he said, Matt, we got to go. And I just stopped for a second and I said, I don't want to be in that situation that someone else is going to dictate my life. And, the old adage of working for a company, putting your time in and sailing off into the sunset with that company, that's out the window. So, a little bit of a control freak and just wanted to, write my own future, write my own destiny. So I've only really worked with one company out of college, which was Enterprise Rent-A-Car. And from there, I worked in direct sales. I owned a part of a bigger conglomerate, and I had my own door-to-door sales direct marketing company. And from there, I got into the dry cleaning industry. And from that point in time, we were looking to expand, very labor intensive, fell into the category of a book called The E-Myth, where really we owned it. Yeah, we owned a job, but we didn't really, we didn't own a business. Working 6 days a week, and Saturday was my half day because I only worked from 7 to 5 p.m. and then Sunday was playing catch up, right? So really, really, really fun lifestyle. I mean, it was, and I joke. But really what happened, Brett, was that we wanted more in life, and we just said, how do we earn money and look at retirement? Because we had one daughter and said everything's going great. Then our second daughter was born, more things to get involved with, and we made the decision to get into brick and mortar and buy a 3-family. So from there, we love doing that and providing safe, affordable housing. So naturally, we said, how do we get more money to do this? The concept of flipping came up to get the big chunks of money to roll that into, more rental properties. And then from there, naturally, the agent side came in. We started a sales team within Keller Williams, ran that for years, did really well well with that, and then stumbled across some material from a gentleman named Bob Proctor that is a program that we actually now teach, that we are certified consultants with his company, and it's called Thinking into Results. And that program, and that's part of Elevated Human Experience. So that program teaches how does the 1% who's really created most of the wealth in this world, controls most of the wealth, how do they think, act, operate, and make decisions? And from there, we started this platform that we bring coaches in, we cross-pollinate. And because of what we teach and following your passion, I just launched what's referred to, or what's called the Elevated Safari Experience, which is taking people starting off in Tanzania, Africa, bringing them out on tours. Really, the concept is transformation through travel. We find that, more and more people want to have experiences in life and not necessarily get more gifts and consume more. And we all know that we go on vacation, we come back and we're like, oh, back to the day-to-day grind. So our tours are really designed to help understand how do animals interact with each other, interact with their environment, how do we embody some of those same characteristics and really create a life that we want to live. One of the examples I always give is the lion, for example. The lion is known as the courageous beast. And we look to embody that courage in life to really go after what we truly want and truly desire and not conform to what society expects us to do, which is really referred to as the 99% of the people on this planet that just feel like they're trapped in a certain circumstance or stuck and don't have any options.
Interesting. Relating the 99% to the conforming piece and the 1% to going after what they want. And also that 1% is the that income level too, that aligns with those things. So, wow, lots of stuff in there, Matt. What a stack of experiences. I love that. We always say that everybody has their own journey, and the blessing of that journey are these stacks of experiences and how they lay together. And for you as a serial entrepreneur, and then kind of breaking that wall, and it feels like to me mindset is a massive piece of that, and I'm not hardened to that at all. The word, I love the word, and I love what it automatically gives inner reflection in me. As soon as I say mindset, I'm this self-realization is the biggest piece for me of that. So in that journey, that book that you read, Roger Gerber, or is that the author of the E-Myth?
Yeah, the E-Myth.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that was one of the very first books that changed my path as well too. And setting off, on that path, that mindset shift, what was that like for you? I mean, what was that real trigger going from, buying yourself a job, being self-employed, versus this idea of stop trading, separating your time and money, being able to find this path. You said a 3-family. Tell us a little bit about that path for you and your family. What was that change? Somebody just didn't come say, hey, Matt, you should buy this 3-family. It's going to change your life. Tell us, walk us through that.
Well, I think the first thing, Brett, is that, and I want to go back to the idea as far as mindset, right? And the mind has multiple aspects to it. And we really focus on the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind is where most of our quote unquote programs, also known as paradigms, are stored. So if you think about what we do on a day-to-day basis, 95% of it is done on autopilot. And if you really analyze your day-to-day activities, what you did yesterday is pretty much what you did the day before is going to be what the day before that. Same thing today and same thing tomorrow. And most people do not think and do not understand the power of thinking. So mindset is really having control over what your thoughts are. And there's been extensive studies that, our thoughts become things. So are people aware of what are the thoughts that are running through their mind on a day-to-day basis? So really what happened to us is everything, if you look from the outside in, you would say, hey, you know what? I want to be that family. I was married to an amazing wife. I had 2 amazing daughters, a beautiful house with 4 acres, owned a business. I mean, everything looked great. Neither one of us felt fulfilled in life. And what happened was I realized from my wife, having a conversation with me, she said, Matt, you're not the same guy that I met, years ago. And all of a sudden, fear crept in and I said, oh my gosh, I said, is she looking for a divorce? Did I have so many masks on that like I pulled a fast one over her? And really what I discovered, Brett, was that everything that I just listed were goals that I had and desires that I had as a little kid, right? Our family didn't own a house until my mom just bought a house in South Carolina a couple of years ago. That was the first house our family owned. I always wanted kids. I wanted to have a great relationship with my kids. I wanted to have a great relationship with my wife. And of course, I wanted to own my own business. So real estate became, I'll back up. We sat down and we had a conversation and my wife said, you've settled. And that, for someone who is driven and really wants to be or is working at a high level, to hear the word settling, that was a dagger to my chest. And I said, whoa, hold on a second here. So we sat down and said, okay, we literally have the ability to rewrite our future. We don't have to believe what everyone, thinks we should be doing. We don't need permission from others. Let's unlock our imaginations. Let's go, like you said, let's go inside. What's our inner genius that we can tap into to really co-create, not compete, not look to the left, to the right, and just stay focused. What is it that I want? And that's my big GPS that I ask myself every single second of the day when contrast shows up, which are things that I don't necessarily want or that I don't want to feel. I go back to my GPS of what is it that I want right now? I want this situation to be easy. I want this, I want this deal to work out. I want to have a great conversation with my clients. So tie that into what was the step. We knew we could, being part of the E-Myth and we owned this job. We knew we could buy more stores. We knew we could have more employees. We believed that more time into what we were doing was going to generate more money. And we were completely trading our lives for the dollar. And we said, there's got to be a different way. And this idea of passive income came up. And that's where we said, wait a minute, we can have money work for itself. And what we had to do first, Brett, was break that belief system that we had about money. Money was something that we had to chase. Money was something we had to keep going after. I grew up in a pretty modest household, and money was a bad thing. People that had money were greedy. People did bad things with money. And money is a multiplier. You give money to a great person, they're going to do great things with that. You give money to someone that's not so great, they're going to do not so great things with that. So it really started off by saying, let's go all in on this and start by getting passive income. And then about a year later, we made a big investment into ourselves. We spent $35,000 on a, kind of done for you business in a box from a company called Fortune Builders that taught how to flip houses, and get into a system. And, I'm a system guy. So you put me into something, I'm going to be successful. And that really skyrocketed us to where we are today after we were able to change our perception on things and say, we're playing small. We're looking at small incremental jumps. Let's open up the mind. Let's open the imagination. Let's set what's called a C-type goal. And my wife and I created this goal that, and we state it this way now, in any affirmation or goal that we set, we put in the now moment. And our goal is we're so happy and grateful now that we earn in excess of $108 million in passive residual income through multiple streams of revenue on a continuous basis. That's my GPS. All my actions, all my yeses or no go towards that goal.
Interesting stuff, Matt. What year was Fortune Builders?
Fortune Builders was, 12 years ago. So but 2011-ish is when that happened.
11. So how long were you with that group? Like there's events, attending events. So how long did you attend events after when you first started?
I never went to any of the events, Brett. I got involved with all the coaching programs. It was one of those things that I had a lack mindset about time and money. And I'm like, look, can I really take a couple days and fly here? And do I have the money here? And again, owning a business, I did not have the ability to leave. In the dry cleaning industry, I was the pants presser, I was the stain removal, I was the environmental guy, I was the counter guy, I was the delivery guy. My wife and I wore these roles. So the idea of taking vacation, which was literally 4 or 5 days a year, based off of when 4th of July was and when Christmas was, it was a stressful experience for us because we would spend all of our time prepping, getting everything done. And then we would leave, and then all the clothes would stack up, and then we come home and we're just in a panic to get all the work done. And we didn't really enjoy taking time off because of the stress and anxiety it caused for us.
Interesting.
So,
the Michael E. Gerber is, I typed that in to Amazon, and that was the book E-Myth. And I'm actually interested in this progression here. Was Michael E. Gerber, the E-Myth, was that before or after Fortune Builders?
that was actually from Fortune Builders is when I got that from Fortune Builders.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
Matt, my story is very similar. I'm actually a Fortune Builder myself.
Nice.
Yeah. So we joined, I think in 2016. So 6 years ago. And then that's when I read that book as well too. And just things, same way, man. That's interesting. Similar path, and investing in ourselves at that time, changing the mindset. I mean, all of this stuff is laid in very, very similar to your path, I feel. And I also searched on Amazon, I searched, the E-Myth, and what popped up, what frequently bought together, these three books: E-Myth, Profit First, and Traction. Have you read those other two books?
Profit First, I have read, and Traction. I'm getting messages from the universe left and right. It keeps coming in my radar screen. My Safari partner, it's on his bookshelf, and I was one day I was like, "Is that Traction?" He's like, "Yeah, have you read it?" And I'm looking at my bookshelf, and I'm like, all the books on Audible, all the books on the shelf, I haven't. So, Brett, thank you for bringing that again. That's now in my radar screen. I'll make sure that I understand the concept. So.
Yeah, the first for us, actually, I had read Traction before Fortune Builders, and I was introduced. Gino Wickman is the author of that book. I was introduced to that book and that management style. That's what it is, basically, a management style, growing a business, traction, KPIs, like all these so important things on management, through the design build firm that I was with. So I was introduced to that, and those little pieces of that book when I had first connected with the team from Fortune Builders, what they were saying, that mindset piece tied along with what I had just learned and implemented in the previous year or 2 years through Traction. Like, those were the two things that attracted me to that group. And man, I tell you what, from that point moving forward, it was like just that change in our minds of being able to separate time and money. For me, when we first started investing in real estate, it was, I can do this. I got this. I'm a licensed contractor. I can do this. I can do this. But in that reality is the same way with you and your family, Matt, the same thing of I was buying a job, right? And this process that we both went on allowed us to see, okay, I've got to create these systems that allow me to not be part of it, right? To push that away. And that beautiful piece of that book is that triangle, right? And that triangle in the E-Myth is on the line on the let's see, there's three sections if I can build this out properly. I don't know if you recall it or not. There's on the bottom, there's the T, the technician. And no matter what, if you're swinging a hammer or pushing a scalpel, we're trading time for money as a technician because it requires my time to do that. The next level is the M, the management piece, which still requires our time. So I'm managing other people, I'm managing technicians, but I still have to put my time into it. In the break of this cycle, Matt, of which we've gained and we've grasped, where this mindset change happens, is that E on the top, the entrepreneur. And that idea, that's not self-employed, that's not a management, that's building a business that doesn't require your time, or having investments that don't require your time, right? And all of these things to get there that happen inside of us lead us now to this journey where you're at now. And you mentioned that lion piece that it's very interesting, being able to not conform to what everybody else thinks that we should be. And our listeners being practitioners, medicine, physicians, all of this stuff. what kind of car you drive, what kind of house you live in, how you're supposed to, what you're supposed to do with your money, what kind of advisors you're supposed to work with. Are you even supposed to be doing real estate? So all of these things that we have to break away in order to get to this 1%, right?
Absolutely. And that's really something that we specialize in, Brett, is that, I brought up the word paradigm, and a paradigm is really, we refer to it as a series of mental habits that's stored in the subconscious. And a lot of our belief systems and a lot of these paradigms are brought down generation to generation to generation. And as we grow and we're younger, everyone that's around us, whether it be from church or school or different groups that we're involved with, everyone is really just looking to keep us safe. And there's a preset path in life, if you will. And I put my hands up of the triangle of, you go to school after, high school, there's two paths. You do more school, or, you go into get a job. Eventually everyone is working. Now you might have a family, you buy a house, you may have kids, you work until 65, 75 years old. Then at that point in time, you can retire and you can enjoy life. And really what we want to do is take that model and smash it and turn it upside down and say, wait a minute, let's focus on enjoying life now. Let's not wait until we have, because let's think about it, right? When we're 65, 75 years old and we're quote unquote done, what is our level of excitement? What's our level of energy after putting all of this time and labor into what we're doing? So when we can really tap into our inner genius that's unique for each one of us and find out what is it that really drives us, that makes us special. When we tap into that, everything else becomes easy and effortless. And that's really the mission that we're on with the Elevated Human Experience.
It's very interesting. And this path, I guess, for me personally, aligns with faith and religion as well, too. This inner genius piece, aligning with the idea that I don't know what it is. And I talked about it earlier too, Matt, is like this path. Everybody has their own journey, right? And we're all blessed with these stack of experiences. And it's this idea that these things are what have been given to us from the universe, from God. These ideas, like here, they're placed in front of you. And if you don't know right away this minute, if you're chasing or facing in the right direction to follow your why, to follow the things that bring you pleasure and fill your love bucket and help others around you, you're headed in the right direction. And your experiences are sharpening you, are building that character in you for when that time is right, for that instant to be, boom, this is it. This is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing, where I'm supposed to be doing it, how I'm supposed to be doing it. This is what I've been curated for, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of it goes back to making decisions, which is such a strong skill set that we're not taught. Right. And if you go think about how many people will run around and, look for the advice of others of what do you think I should do? And what do you think I should do? And is this the right thing? And is that the right thing? Well, how can we, it's your life. How can I tell you how to make a decision on your life? Right. And that's part of the process of tapping into your inside and tapping into those gifts. I've gotten to a point that I no longer download free information or I go to free things, because how many times you get something for free and you push it off to the shelf, right? When we make that investment, when you pay, you're going to play. And it's giving ourselves permission of going. For me, Brett, it's like going back to little Maddie. As a kid, what did little Maddie love to do? Right. And that's when I go into my imagination. And as I start to pull all these quote unquote wild ideas out, instead of listening to those limiting beliefs of, well, wait a second, no one in your family's ever done that. You don't have the experience for that. Could you make money doing that? I can take that monkey mind and I can stay in control. And the only time that I will look to others outside of me is that I will look and say, if one human has done it, I can also do it. I have that ability. And going back to this idea of the free things, the free gifts that we've been given from God, cosmos, consciousness, energy, whatever it might be, they sit inside of our conscious mind. And we have the ability of reason. We have the ability as far as intuition. We have perception. We have memory. We have will. And so those gifts people don't use. And we are conditioned to live our lives of what our sensory factors see in the quote unquote outside reality. So if our brain is different from our mind, and as we start to have an idea, the brain will send an electric signal through the body to find the cells of recognition to say, oh yeah, that idea, we can do that because I remember you did that or someone else did that. And if I can't find that, then my subconscious wants to keep me safe and says, Matt, hold on a second here. Stay in your comfort zone. Don't break free, because that's going to be a little bit of pain and suffering there. And my ego takes over, which is an incredible thing. But we give our power to our ego, and there has to become a point in time that we make the decision of, hey, ego, thank you so much. You've been driving this for a long time. I really appreciate it. You must be tired. So here's a nice blanket. Here's a book. Go in the back seat. Give me the keys. I'm going to drive, and I'm going to take over, and I'm taking control of my life.
Mm-hmm. This is kind of touching on also, for me, in my mind, the quantum, like the quantum mindset, the infinite mindset, this idea that everything is possible, everything already exists, that you need to make this happen, but yet we're conditioned by our associations, by our surroundings, and even in our mind, the stories that we're telling ourselves. Just like when your wife said, hey, I got to talk to you, like you instantly started telling yourself these stories, and these stories are then, in my physician friends out there probably know a lot more about this than I do, but these stories then trigger these chemicals called emotions inside of us. And then those emotions exaggerate these things and how we then decide to take action. But when we create this path where we're controlling what we're thinking, we're controlling this path in engaging. Sometimes, we can't always control the chemicals that are released in our emotions, but we can control how we react to them. And the idea that everything is possible, everything is there that is needed for us to create these things. Just when does that time align? It's so remarkable, and it aligns so well for me on the idea. Some of the greatest experiences in my life have been these masterminds where we pay $35, where we pay $50,000, and instantly you get this check, like this logic, this reason, like, you can't do that. Why would you do that? How are you going to make that happen? Where inside of me, this thing, the difference between the brain and the mind, right? The body and the soul, this thing's like, go get it, Brett, get it. This is it. This is the answer. I don't need any more than that. If I take action from that, those are the moments where it's gone through, and I've gotten these experiences that you're talking about, and this elevated savari, right? That's exactly what I'm talking about. The most memorable moments, and these spikes in my results, the improving me as a person, as a father, as a friend, as a husband, are these moments when I have these experiences, because now we're linking all this stuff together in my mind, Matt. The experience is triggering these chemicals that are creating these emotions that are driving stronger actions, whether we're paying for it or we're not. When we pay for these things, when we invest in ourselves, and we can engineer these experiences to link the thoughts, to link ourselves with high performers, surrounding and expanding our associations, and putting ourselves free to think in this infinite mindset, in this quantum, in these experience amplified by our emotions. Man, does it get any better than that, Matt?
It gets better when you just stay in curiosity, and and it's so imperative to have an open mind, because an open mind allows us to see opportunities. And Brett, there is opportunities that are going by all the time. And for me, a closed mind is so dangerous, because if I miss an opportunity, I don't know if it's something that's just going to advance me for the next couple of hours, or is it something that's going to have a major effect that completely changes my trajectory as far as my family and myself. And I love this idea that you brought up as far as the quantum is concerned. When I talk about little Maddie, going to space was always something I wanted to do. And when I gave myself permission to write out these C-type goals, which are goals that are so outside of myself, from my imagination, that they scare the living daylights out of me, but they get me so excited, I wrote down, I want to travel to Mars. And what happened? Immediately, my limiting beliefs were like, wait a second, like what if something happens? You won't see your family. And I start having that inner dialogue. I'm like, well, I'll take my family with me. And then myself would say, wait a minute, Matt, what if something happens to the whole family? Right. So now I'm like, oh, that's a really dumb idea. Like, don't think about traveling to space. Right. So I've been fascinated by the vastness of the universe. And then I got exposed to the quantum, and I'm like, wait a second, instead of going, there's a law of polarity, there's a law of opposites. So instead of going really, really big, now we go really, really small. And, I'll get into a conversation that I adopted this philosophy a couple of years ago. And it's an amazing book that's called What You Think of Me Is None of My Business. So I just want to speak my truth. And if someone resonates with it, great. And if they don't, that's okay. So you brought up religion, right? And I have a religious belief that I grew up around. And then I started studying science. And science and religion have actually been saying the same thing, just through a different set of lenses. So in the world of religion, we know that God is omnipresent. God is everywhere. God is neither create nor destroy. It's through everything, right? We can take that same approach from science and say, okay, as far as, where Einstein picked up the torch and moved it forward of energy is neither created nor destroyed. Energy is. And so when it comes to this idea of quantum, it's confusing, just like as far as religion is concerned, because our sensory factors, it doesn't apply, right? When it comes to energy that's around us. Brett, there's so much information that's getting passed all around us right now that we can't see, that if we had the lenses, we get overwhelmed, and just go into as far as radio waves, microwaves, Wi-Fi, you name it. There's so much stuff that's around us. So what has happened over our lifetimes is that all the information is here. Everything has always been here. And really, how has society changed or humanity changed? We have just been able to change the order to understand how it works. So flight, we've always had the principles of flight. It wasn't until man understood the concepts to change the order to say, yeah, now we can fly planes. Same thing as far as flying rockets. Same thing as far as the internet. Same thing as everything that we have. It's just changing the order. And a lot of it goes back to that intellectual factor as far as what our perception is, and understanding that just because you see it one way and I see it another way doesn't mean I'm right and you're wrong. And being open to understanding, we can shift our perception and open up a whole new world for ourselves.
That's awesome. That whole, I mean, we have a whole nother hour conversation where this is leading. But the idea that it's not created or lost in the energy piece, and the idea of we have energy inside of our body. And then when we are deceased, where does the energy go, right? Where is that energy transferred? And is it related to the soul and to this thing that we don't have the order right to understand? The one order we do, some of us have the ability to understand, is faith. In each one of those, science or religion, you have to have faith in order to get something that you don't have currently, in order to believe something that you can't touch, that you can't see. And that faith piece is huge. And it goes back to the open mindset, the infinite mindset, and having faith that everything is there. It's in place. You're where you need to be. But for me, it's always being, I'm content, but I'm not complacent. And that conversation that you have with your wife is that way of where, wait a second, did I settle? But shifting it back around, turning it back to this elevated human experience, Matt, this is what it's about, right? The conversation we're having today. I love talking about this, and I always start everything with that mindset piece, because without all of this, it's unlikely. You could go and you could have 100 or 1,000 units. You still wouldn't be happy, right? You've got to find these inner pieces, the order, just like what you're saying, the order. You can have 100 units, 1,000 units, but if the order's not right, none of that's going to matter. None of that's going to matter. You might have multiple relationships, not a relationship with your kids. Things are going to fail. It may be Groundhog Day for you every single day. You've got to get the order right. And the order starts within asking the right questions and being around the right people.
Yeah, I love that as you finish that off as far as being around the right people. And when it comes to investing, sure, I have 32 streams of income, which is fantastic. I know that the best investment is in myself. And there's a great book called Thinking in Bets. And I know I can bet on myself because I'm going to get that return. And a lot of people don't give themselves the permission to invest in themselves. You know, if I could go back in time and say, okay, Matt, you know, in the future, your life would change if you focus on this one concept. Brett, for me, I would tell myself, listen, be selfish. And society has labeled selfishness as a bad thing. Well, I got to tell you, when I put myself first and I make sure that my cup is filled first and that anything I give to others, because I'm a servant leader and I get satisfaction of seeing other people be successful. If I am taking my cup and I pour it out over and over again, I'm looking for a glass here and I don't have one to play show and tell. But if I have a glass and I keep pouring it out, and then all of a sudden I go to drink from it, there's nothing left. Where's my energy? Where's my excitement? Where's my fulfillment? So when I always put myself first and know that the best version of Matt Swierk is going to help inspire to have other people find their best versions, it's worth every single penny. So I will say yes over and over and over again, and the price tag doesn't matter. We put so much value on, well, wait, how much does it cost? What's the opportunity cost if we don't do this? What am I missing? And if I was going to, if I paid $35,000 and I just got 2 golden nuggets out of it, it's worth it. It's worth it all day long. So I think that's the first thing is people need to give themselves permission that it's okay to put yourself first. It's okay to understand what your desires are. It's okay to go after what you want in life. Because when you're living your best life, we know we're all under a microscope. And even if you don't think you're a leader, you're leading people that you have no idea who they are because of social media, because of the communities and everything around. So when I show up as the best I can be, I know I'm a transmitter. I'm sending out that energy. People are going to pick up on that and they're going to look at me and say, hey, you know what? He had a rough childhood like I did. He has some stumbling blocks like I did. If that guy can do it, I can do it too. Mm-hmm. And when I had a poor self-image, immediately my limiting beliefs would kick in and be like, well, Brett had this and he's better looking than me. And he had a different area that he grew up in. As humans, we fight for our limiting beliefs as hard as we possibly mm-hmm. can. And they're lies. They're lies. We have the ability to rewrite our beliefs. We have the ability to rewrite our logic. And it's all stored in the subconscious. And it's understanding how to use tools to actually make those changes and create a life that everything becomes simple and easy.
If you don't take the time to be selfish, then none of that will ever happen. Another one of the biggest changes in my life, we did this thing called 75 Hard. My wife and I both went through that process, been through multiple phases, multiple times. Love it. But what it did, Matt, is it forced me to be selfish. I had to do certain steps. I had to do them every single day. And those in the personal growth, self-realization world, that was the moment that I can look back and I could see those massive spikes in growth because I was being selfish, just like you said, right? And that's when that's going to happen. And I always think of it too, of like, if I'm in the safari and I'm just in the thick, I'm in the bush, it's rough. And if I continue to live my life that way, not invest in myself enough to raise my head up out of the weeds, how can I help anybody else? If I'm not taking the time to raise my head above the weeds by investing in myself, by being selfish, then we continue on this path the whole way. So, man, I think that's a great spot to wrap up. Back at the safari thing and this experience, where can we find out more about that, Matt?
All right, you can actually go to elevatedsafariexperience.com. There's a link that you can click on to let us know what you might be interested in. We have some preset tours. We have some customization we can do. We also are running. It's funny you brought the bush because one of the things, there's a lot of limiting beliefs about people traveling outside the country and what is Africa all about. And the first time I went, I'm like, wait a minute, this is not what I expected it to be, right? And ignorance is not a good or a bad thing. It's just I was very ignorant to what the continent of Africa was and how diverse it was. So in helping people break some of those beliefs, we actually have started a series called Bush TV. And Bush TV is a bi-weekly show. It's a concept in Africa. If you walk up to someone from Africa and say, tell me about Bush TV, it's a real thing. It's people that, didn't have electricity, didn't have a lot of things. They would bring their families together at the end of the day, light a fire under the stars, and they would tell stories of the day and pass on, the different experiences and the traditions from different generations. So we actually have, and I should have given you the link to it, but we have a bi-weekly Zoom call that just looks to educate, inspire, and break some beliefs and get people excited. My partner loves to say of bringing Tanzania to the comfort of your living room.
Wow. And that's elevatedsafariexperience.com. I've got it pulled up right here. So listeners can reach out to you, continue this conversation, and man, just start being selfish. Because that's when we can help. That's when we can help others. And talking about helping others, Matt, I really appreciate your time here today. I've engaged in this conversation, and I am fascinated how similar our journeys were along this way too.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. Yeah, and that's the one thing, Brett, like I said, I'm a servant leader, and, my experience and, I've really put everything into understanding, how does when it all boils down, it's, the spirit, the intellect, and the body, how does that come into play every second of our day, and really understanding how the mind works. And that's fascinating to me. That's why I've gone all in on this. But as far as serving others, my contact information's here. I have 13 years of real estate investing, from flipping, from multifamilies. We're in syndications. We have over 550 units. I love to talk shop about this stuff and tell you about my failures, so that way you can learn from those mistakes and be better of what you're doing if you choose to get into that world.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for your time. Congratulations on your journey, filling your love bucket and balancing those pieces together. And now that your head is above the weeds and being able to give back. And I think that's really important. So thanks again for your time. And to the listeners out there today, wow, what a journey that was. What a conversation. So much in there, so much to unwrap. If you have any questions, you can reach Matt. You can go ahead and find him at elevatedsafariexperience.com. There's other ways to book his time as well, too. If you have any questions for us, info@physicianwealthsystems.com. If you have someone that should be a guest on here, let us know. If you would like to be a guest, reach out to us. And if you do get the chance, swing by, leave us a review. It helps us raise our head above the weeds. It helps us get out to the other listeners when you do that. So we really appreciate that. Until next time, this is Real Estate Mogul, MD.